forget.
No. Okay, if we'll go ahead and settle down, we'll get rolling. We again have a hard exit this afternoon, so I want to get time to hear all three of these measures. You want to get our can you get our sign in? We get our sign-in sheet. I want to thank everybody for coming this afternoon. I'll call the House Higher Education Committee to order. We're going to listen to three bills this afternoon: HB 206, HB 695, and HB 716. We're late in the session to take any action on these bills, but I wanted to give them a hearing. Two of the bills were introduced a bit late in the year, and I just mentioned that as a temporal acknowledgement, not any kind of an admonition. And then Representative Eric Bell has been working on his bill with us, since early parts of the session to try to get to a place on that. And we had a fiscal note, and we'll get another one based on the latest substitute. But with that, I'll go in order, unless somebody has to be somewhere. Any of the authors? Anybody got a reason? Representative Bell, y'all all good to stay with us? Okay, we'll just go in order. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. We have speakers on 716, so I'm going to go with 716 first, if that's okay. So we'll keep in mind their time. So we'll go with speakers on. So Representative Bell and Representative Santos, if you want to go first, you have to bring speakers for your bill in the future. No, I'm just kidding. But we will do that out of the interest of those folks, because I hate to run out of time and have people speaking. So with that, we're going to go to House Bill 716, LC 610074. That's the original bill. Representative Berry, is that what you had? Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about your measure.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm very appreciative to be here today and the opportunity to have a hearing and to bring to you all HB 716, the Hunger-Free Campus Act. Start by defining the need for this with the legal definitions of economically disadvantaged. So according to our code, it says an individual who comes from a family with an annual income below a level based on low income thresholds that is set by the United States Census Bureau, adjusted by the CPI and of course the Secretary of Health and Human Services every single year. And just defining the need for this kind of bill. What this bill would do is create a need-based program, tuition-based program for students to be able to afford food. This bill was brought up by an idea, everyone knows I'm the young person here, so I'm not long out of college here. So, there's some days where we get a class at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but the cafeteria is closed at 7. And so the question then becomes of, how do you afford food, especially as a broke college student? And so this bill came out of that need to help our college students be able to afford food and to address that food insecurity amongst a group that we really don't consider food insecure, but that's college students that are food insecure. And here's some data points about it, and I'm also going to defer some of this to my speakers that I have. There's 43% of our undergraduate students in USG and 52% of our students in the technical college system qualify for Pell Grants. And the percentage of students who qualify for Pell Grants has increased over the last 10 years. It went from 27% to now 43% that it is today. And then fewer than 2 in 5 will qualify for SNAP benefits, according to that data as well. In addition, there are 23% of students nationally identify as food insecure. In the state of Georgia, 29% of our college students identify as food insecure. So we have a higher than average, national average food insecurity issue amongst our college students. And so let me just explain the bill for you all and give you all a little walkthrough. I am going to ask for a fiscal note on this bill. This has also been introduced and passed in Louisiana, and it's cost Louisiana $2.5 million to cover their students in this program. It's also been introduced and passed in Oklahoma, and it has cost Oklahoma $200,000 of state funds, and colleges are also able to apply for matching grants in the state of Oklahoma. But what this bill does is simply subject to appropriations, so this will be, of course, a push that we'll fight for next year. The Georgia Student Finance Commission will establish a need-based financial aid program to provide grants to eligible students at an eligible post-secondary institution for the purpose of combating food insecurity amongst post-secondary students. The qualifications are outlined on lines 19 to 27. Economically disadvantaged, the definition I just walked through, any academic or other standards established by the Commission, eligible for scholarship pursuant to Code Section 519.1, and also has completed FAFSA, or there's a financial aid gap. The maximum award cannot exceed the amount equal to the highest cost meal plan at that school. So the average meal plan at our schools, the UGA, the highest is $2,200. At Georgia Tech, the highest is $2,415. At Georgia State is about $300 a month, and I can keep going on and on. Those are some of the averages that we're seeing across our schools across the state. And so that's what the bill does. It's a very concise bill, but it would lift a lot of students up and a lot of students out of poverty in our state, and I really do feel that this is a good step forward to ensuring that our college students can eat.
Okay.
So I'm excited to take any questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Representative. Number 18, is that, yes, Representative Glaze.
Thank you so much, Representative Barry, for bringing this. Can you help me understand how the college students would be awarded this money and then utilized? Are you saying that it would be a part of their financial aid packet, and they would get it at the beginning of the semester, and then they would have it to use all semester? Help me understand how this
Yes, so I think
award would go.
Right now, as the law is written, the bill is written that it would be part of their financial aid package. But I do imagine the commission has the authority to expand it. Like Oklahoma, they are able to take it out like an ATM card and use it at different places for food. So I do feel and believe that the bill can expand to the discretion of the commission on how they want to divvy out the money.
Do you mind if I ask one more question?
Of course, yeah.
So in one of your stats, you said 29% of Georgia's college students are food insecure, and 2 out of 5 qualify for SNAP.
Mm-hmm. Fewer than 2 out of 5 are actually apply for SNAP, I should say. I'm sorry.
So you think there's more students who are eligible for SNAP and don't apply?
According to our data, yes, there are students that are eligible for SNAP but don't apply, but also that SNAP benefits also being cut as well nationally, we know, and so that money is also going away from the federal government as well. So it's important for us as a state to put some matching funding into that.
Okay. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill. This is awesome to address our food insecurity in older, I would say, youth in college. My question is, would this, if a student wanted to take summer school, would this extend to summer?
Yes, I expect this will be a year-round program as set by the commission, as long as the student is enrolled in school, yes.
All right, and then you did request a fiscal note?
Yes, I
right.
talked to Chairman Barnett
Cool.
about that, yes.
That's what we want to know, how much it's going to cost the state. Thank you for this bill.
Vice Chair of the Committee, Carter Barrett.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing this, and I appreciate the spirit of what you're trying to accomplish with the bill. Would this actually pay for the actual meal plan, or or is the award amount just calculated based on the highest meal plan cost?
Yes, again, so it depends on, like as I said, in Oklahoma, they have a system where it's like a card they can use to buy food at different places. In the event they say cafeteria is closed at 7 p.m. they can go to McDonald's and buy food at 8:30 with that card, and that the card covers about, again, the highest meal plan coverage. So I think it really is fully determined on commission of how they want to execute the program. I will say I've reached out to the commission, I've reached out to USG, and we're going to be working the interim on this bill in the summertime and in the fall on this bill to ensure that we can, if this bill was to pass, how we can execute it to the full extent.
Thank you.
Are we back to? Oh, I'm sorry. Quit Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Berry, thank you for the bill. I think this is, excellent. It certainly serves an important need in our state. But, in reading the letter from Voices for Georgia's Children in support of the letter, the beneficial impact that this would have to students in rural Georgia as well as those in our foster care system or for foster youth as well. I think, those are two areas in which this committee has certainly done a lot of work and in which I would love to. My question is more along the lines of, I think this is a great idea, would certainly support a lot of students that historically we have taken action to support, but it's that implementation aspect in which, are there any sort of concerns? Would this be an additional supplement to a HOPE scholarship, a HOPE grant, or to your point, an additional supplement vis-a-vis, a food card or something specifically with the institution? I think once, you have that technical implementation aspect, and if we could hear from USG, I don't know if they're ready or not to speak to that, but I'd certainly love to work with you to continue to see this move forward.
Yes, thank you. And I will say this is also based off a program that is also done at UGA currently right now. It's called Every Dog Eats. So UGA has this program. The bill is based off of that program. And I believe at UGA, the cost and the coverage goes to their meal plan. Based on our research, it goes to their meal plan. That's how it's done at UGA. And so that's how the commission wants to set forth, and that's what the commission will do.
Thank you, Representative. We're going to do one more question, then we're going to go to our speakers. Perfect. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for bringing this bill. The only concern that I have, I like the bill, and I think it's needed on the campuses so the young people, not kids, can have some place to go. But now, will this mean an over-award, financial award of the student, or will every student be eligible, and will it be need-based? I think you understand where I'm coming from. I worked in financial aid at Savannah State, and I know over-awarding could get you in trouble.
Right. So
is this going to be a supplemental plan to this, because it's really needed on our campuses, and particularly for our smaller institutions?
Yes.
Let me help Representative Berry just in the interest of time, because you got a number of speakers. We got 3 bills. That's the reason I wanted to hear Representative Jackson. I think I heard off to the things Representative Barnes say. That was my question too. So that's what I want to hear from what part. I think the idea of helping folks on campus is a good one. I think the issue is how to logistically do it. It's a bit. It's more complex than it seems,
right?
Because if one is not careful, you'll be getting money to people that don't need it, or getting more money than they need, and then yet some people that do need it may not get it. So that's why I wanted to hear it at this point in the year, so we would have the interim to work over that. So if you have something to add real quickly, then I want to get to your speakers. I want to get to the folks that came to talk to it.
Yes. To answer the question, yes, the intent of the bill is to be need-based and supplemental for those that need it, as I said, as defined in lines 19 to 27 about the qualifications in this bill. And yes, as I said, we will be working with USG and the Student Finance Commission in the interim, summertime and fall time, to make this better.
Yes, thank you. If you want to stay there, Representative, I'm going to go to your speakers, and we'll let them go to the podium, Mike, unless somebody needs to go to the table.
All right.
Is that Corinne? Corinne Scully? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Corinne Schooley with Achieve Atlanta, you have a packet there. I'm going to go quickly in the interest of time, but just want to give a little bit of context to this bill. So I work for Achieve Atlanta. We're a nonprofit that supports students in the Atlanta area to get to and through college. We provide college advising while they're in high school, need-based scholarships, and then wraparound supports once they're in college. We've supported about 20,000 students in our 9 years, 6,700 students going to college with our funds. They take their funds to colleges across the country, but 80% of them do stay here in Georgia and attend an institution for a 2-year, 4-year technical certificate. So just in terms of the numbers around college students and food insecurity, there's a national survey, the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Survey, that captures this data. About 1 in 4 college students in Georgia is food insecure. This is more prevalent than the general population. About the same number of students have this need across the country. This resonates with us at Achieve Atlanta. We survey our students who are by definition from low-income families. About 20% of them share with us that access to food is a barrier to them persisting through college. And that's why this is such an issue, because just like we talk about in early childhood and in K-12, when students are hungry, they can't learn, the same thing happens to young adults and adults. And so the research bears out similarly that access to food is related to students' academic performance in college. When students do not have food security, it is impairing their ability to persist and earn that credential. In answer to some of these questions, I wanted to provide a few recommendations on what this bill could become, as we have some experience in this type of grant at Achieve Atlanta. So some things that have been discussed in terms of, does this go on the student's meal plan, or is this sort of a card? All of this I do think can be worked out. One of the important things to think about is when funds come from the state to, for example, Georgia Student Finance Commission, and they're distributing those funds, it's important for something like food to be able to be spent on what's called indirect expenses. So this is money that is not owed to the college. It is money that the student is allowed to use for their educational and basic needs. So if you think about a student who is food insecure, often they are actually not purchasing the meal plan because it is so expensive. They're often not living on campus. Either their campus doesn't provide the housing, if they're an upperclassman, or housing is too expensive. So really ensuring that the dollars are going to be targeted to the students that need it is important. The other thing around targeting students is often when we distribute funds, we send dollars to the institutions for them to provide the funding to the students, because the institutions know the students better. One of the things to just think about is to ensure that, to Rep. Barry's point, that the dollars are going to the institutions that have these students. So thinking about using the data that we have on hand, institutions that have more Pell eligible students can get more money because they have more students that need it. The last thing I'll just recommend is there are states that are doing similar programs across the country. There are private organizations that provide emergency grants to students. People have done this, and to the point about not over-awarding, let's not reinvent the wheel. There are ways to do this. You can funnel it through the student's financial aid to ensure that they're not over-awarded and that the funds get directly to the students that need it. In your packet, I have some other examples of what states will do. I'm not going to, what states do on this, I won't share those, but I'm happy to speak to those now or throughout the year as y'all deliberate this bill. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have a pressing question, Representative Barnes? We have 6 more speakers. Thank you very much. We'll come back if we have time. Thank you very much. Kendra Goat. I don't know if that's GR. Kendra?
Oh, sorry, my handwriting's bad. It's pronounced Jabot.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I just didn't know if it was an R or an I. Jabot.
No,
I get the Jabot. All right. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Kendra. I'm a member of the Georgia Youth Justice Coalition, and I'm a student at Georgia State University. I grew up in Hinesville, which is a small military town in Liberty County. I didn't grow up with a lot, and honestly, I didn't grow up in the kind of environment that really prepared me for college. But I had dreams of growing beyond the limitations of my hometown, of thriving in a big city, of becoming someone my family could be proud of. When I received the acceptance letter from Georgia State and made the commitment to move to Atlanta, it felt like a dream come true. I was going to be the first in my family to go to university, and I was finally going to get out of my small town and make something of myself. But I didn't realize how hard it would be to actually survive once I got here. My parents, who work very hard, could only send me $60 a week for things like food and hygiene products. I tried to make it stretch, but most weeks it just wasn't enough. I found myself constantly skipping meals, stretching small, unhealthy snacks to last entire days just to make it through to my next $60. The hunger pangs were overwhelming, making it nearly impossible to focus during my classes. I constantly felt drained. I didn't have the energy to hang out with my peers or get involved on campus like I wanted to. I was basically just surviving off snacks, no real meals, no fruits, no vegetables, just like nothing. I faced the same choice every day. Should I eat enough to satisfy my hunger or save enough food to last the rest of the week? And I know I'm not the only student facing food insecurity. A lot of us are doing everything we can to make our families proud, to change the course of our lives, but we're doing it while we're hungry, and that's not okay. And that's why I'm asking you to support HB 716. This bill would help students like me afford basic meals while we're trying to get our education. It might sound small, but for people like me, it's literally everything. If I didn't have to worry every single week about whether I could eat, I could actually focus in my classes, I could show up, get involved, and not feel like I'm falling apart in silence. So please, really consider and pass this bill. Help students like me who are trying so hard just to be here. We're not asking for much. We're just asking to not go hungry while we chase our dreams. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Ramirez.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brian Ramirez, and I serve as the Advocacy Manager for the Georgia Youth Justice Coalition. We have more than 10,000 members across 66 counties, many of whom are students in Georgia's public colleges and universities. We are here today in full support of HB 716. Food insecurity is a silent crisis on our campuses, and it's holding Georgia students back. Like Representative Berry and Achieve Atlanta have mentioned, the national average for food insecurity is 20%, and the state average is around 23%. However, that doesn't capture the whole image. At Georgia State University, where enrollment tops 52,000 students, 59% of surveyed students reported experiencing some level of food insecurity. At Kennesaw State University, where enrollment tops 47,000 students, that number is 52%. Both KSU and GSU are the two largest universities in the state of Georgia, which is not a small margin. That's the majority of students trying to earn a degree while unsure of their next meal. And I know what some people think. College students are supposed to live off ramen noodles, right? But the reality is, hunger shouldn't be a rite of passage. It's not a college stereotype. It's a barrier to academic success. You can't focus in class or ace an exam when you're worried about where your next meal is coming from. Students deserve nourishment, not just noodles. And we know that food insecurity directly harms academic performance, mental health, and graduation rates. Students who are facing hunger are also likely to also be facing housing instability and lack of health insurance, creating a vicious cycle that leads to stress, which leads to poor academic performance, which makes it harder to graduate and break that cycle of poverty. Students who are food insecure are more likely to report stress, anxiety, and depression, all of which hurt their grades and make it harder to graduate. A study of 7 Georgia campuses found that food insecure students had lower GPAs than their peers, and that this was directly tied to worsening mental health caused by hunger. More than 112,000 students in Georgia have unmet financial needs, averaging over $7,000 per year. That gap forces students to choose between buying groceries or staying in school. HB 716 is an investment in the talented, hardworking young people who are the future of Georgia's workforce, our educators, our entrepreneurs, and our public servants. By helping students afford meal plans, we remove a barrier that no college student in our state should have to face. I urge you to pass this bill and show Georgia students that their health, dignity, and success matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Patty Geesey, how did I do?
Great. I say Gezzy, but
I almost made you path. Now, we're gonna have to work on the T, the TTI. It looked like TH. Yes, ma'am.
good afternoon. My name is Patty Gezzy, and I am the board chair of a small nonprofit called the Invisible Food Pantry. We provide $100 grocery store gift cards and care packages to college students experiencing food insecurity. I want to share about the students I work with who are graduates of DeKalb County high schools and, in most cases, attending Georgia public colleges. They are hardworking, determined, and goal-oriented. They want to graduate from college and enter the professional workforce, in most cases right here in Georgia. They are studying healthcare, cybersecurity, AI, education, and other in-demand disciplines. They are independent and loath to ask for help or admit they are struggling. But they are struggling with the cost of housing and other expenses, even when their tuition is covered by HOPE or other scholarships. These students just need a little extra support. It means the world to them to know their community cares about their success and is aware of the obstacles they face, including the cost of college as well as the cost of housing, food, transportation, and health care. This is from a video I received from a recipient of grocery store gift cards. While struggling with food insecurity is lonely and embarrassing, knowing help was available through the Invisible Food Pantry brought me comfort. You upheld my dignity and empowered me to continue pursuing my dreams of a college degree, even during financially difficult stretches. This student graduated from Valdosta State University in 2024, the first in her family to do so. These students who have worked so hard to make it to college are a great investment in Georgia's future. We need them in our workforce. We cannot let the high cost of food be the obstacle that causes them to drop out of college. I support this bill because it will provide students with that extra boost of support they need to succeed. And when these students thrive, they become the skilled workers Georgia's economy requires. And then our whole state benefits. So it's a win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Kendall Young. Ava Showert it will be next, and then Blake Osborne.
Good afternoon, Representative Berry and the members of the committee. My name is Kendall Young, and I'm a junior political science major, environmental studies minor on the pre-law track attending Spelman College. And I am here today in support of HB 716 because I believe that investing in students is an investment in Georgia's future. Food insecurity is more than just an immediate struggle. It has it has long-term consequences that impact students' health, academic performance, and career prospects. When students are hungry, they cannot focus in class, they cannot retain information, and they cannot reach their fullest potential. A state that prides itself on education and economic growth cannot afford to overlook this issue. I've experienced this struggle firsthand. During my freshman year, the Walmart that served the AUC Center, Atlanta University Center, which includes Spelman College, Morehouse College, and Clark Atlanta University, closed, along with the West End's major grocery store. This left our entire community, including thousands of college students, without proper access to affordable groceries. Suddenly, the nearest options were a Publix in Atlantic Station or another Walmart even further away, both requiring transportation that many students, including myself, simply could not afford. When the cafeteria closed early, my friends and I would always joke amongst ourselves that we'll have sleep for dinner, which wasn't something that we should be doing. By passing House Bill 716 and establishing a needs-based grant program, Georgia would not be providing short-term relief, it would be making a long-term investment. When students have access to adequate nutrition, they perform better academically, graduate at higher rates, and are more likely to contribute meaningfully to the workforce. This means a stronger economy, a more skilled workforce, and a more competitive Georgia in years to come. I have personally seen how food insecurity affects students. I have watched friends stretch a single meal across an entire day, eat at fast food restaurants for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or simply skipping meals altogether just to make ends meet. These are students who are talented, driven, and capable, but they are being held back by something as basic as food access. We cannot expect for our future leaders, educators, and professionals to drive if they're struggling to meet their most fundamental needs. Passing this bill would send a powerful message that Georgia is committed to supporting its students, not just while they're at school, but future contributors to society. A well-fed student is a better student, and a better student becomes a stronger professional. Let's invest in our future by making sure every student has the support they need. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ava?
Good afternoon, Representative Berry and committee members. My name is Ava Charette, and I am a first-year environmental science major at Spelman College. As a first-year student without a car within the AUC Center, food options are very limited, and for groceries, there is only a Walmart within walking distance. The food located in this Walmart is often not nutritious, and it is very expensive compared to fast food options nearby, such as Popeyes or Chick-fil-A. This is not healthy or sustainable for students like me. And because groceries are very expensive, this bill would help students have access to healthy meal options within their meal plans and campus cafeterias, combating the food deserts and food insecurities among college students. Because of this, I urge you to support House Bill 716. Thank you.
Thank you. Blake Osborne.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Blake Osborne. I'm the Director of Programming at the Joseph Lowery Institute, and one of the reasons why I'm here in support of this bill is one of the programs that we operate inside of our organization is actually a campus pantry called Mimi's Pantry. And I wanted to point out why actually supporting this bill and point to the need that actually exists on these campuses. Our pantry has been in inception since 2015. It was created because we sat in front of one of my students. She was a graduate student, and she told us a story of how during the week she ordered a pizza, and she'd take the pizza and she'd chop it and say, okay, breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, as far as it could stretch. And when we heard that story, we felt compelled to act and build a campus pantry. Since that time, over 32,000 students have come through our pantry. And our pantry only serves the campuses of Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark, only students who have not received access to a full meal plan. Now, the statistics you've heard today are accurate. Over 1 in 4 college students are facing food insecurity. That number is even higher at HBCUs. It's actually something closer to 2 in 5. So even having organizations like us that are trying to meet this need, we still cannot meet the amount of students who need to access to food. Having grants, having the ability to get this food, to go to Walmart so they don't have to walk to a pantry and try to carry groceries back. At our pantry, we created, and we are very proud of the fact that we provide a grocery store atmosphere, an atmosphere that allows students dignity to try to choose their options. But as I mentioned, the numbers are high. Just last year alone, 6,000 students visited our pantry. I'll say that again. 6,000 students came by just to receive food. And that is not touching every single student that is in need of food insecurity. This bill is warranted. This bill is necessary. While I agree on one hand, I may be saying, hey, you're creating a program that makes mine worse. I look forward to the day actually where we have programs and institutions in place where students don't need to come to a campus pantry like mine to try to find whatever food we can put together in canned goods for them to get, but where they can actually, I don't know, go to Publix or Kroger and buy food for the week. As one of the students mentioned earlier, at our pantry, we get testimonials all the time. And while there are those who will say, well, okay, the meal plan covers, let's not forget at many institutions, and I'm sure some of you esteemed colleagues may know, especially at smaller institutions, those cafeterias are not open all the time. Spring break, not every student travels. Some of them are still on campus and they need to eat, but the cafeteria may go down to 2 meals a day. Sometimes the cafeteria closes at 7 if you're an athlete, if you play in the band, if you're on the debate team, if you're trying to be in the pre-law society, your meeting may end at 7 p.m. Well, the CAF is closed. Are you out of luck? Are you just supposed to wait till breakfast in the morning? If you're an athlete and you play on the football team, the CAF opens at 7, it closes at 9, practices at 5. Well, maybe I can eat a granola bar in my room before I run to campus. It is not in jest, it's a serious issue. And so providing these grants, giving them these opportunities, I understand that we need to work through some of the solutions here at the Lowry Institute. Like I said, we've been on the ground doing this at 3 of our universities in the Atlanta area. Happy to provide context, data, conversations that may advance this, but please understand the need is real. This student literally showed us a pizza where she chopped it up, and she did that for 4 years. We can address this, and I think this bill would help in such a good way. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Well, that concludes our speakers. If you want to take just a, well, let's do that, but you've got 2 colleagues that we've got to get in just a few minutes.
I just want to say,
Let me turn you on. Go ahead.
I just want to first say thank you to everyone for hearing the bill today again. And I also want to invite you all next week on next April 2nd. I'm having a food giveaway at Morehouse that's partnering with Lowry Institute. And I'll be doing several food giveaways across the state. And I hope to come to some of your districts as well to talk to college students about this need for food insecurity. So if you all are free and able, April 2nd, I'll be having a food giveaway next week at Morehouse College. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Representative Bell. Let me just make sure we're on the same. Go ahead. Just want to make sure we're on the same. What document? We have 9003. Is that the one you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
9003.
LC, everyone, this is House Bill 206, LC 61903. And let me just ask you, can you give the committee, because as you go through the bill, you will tell what we're trying to do to get there, and I know that's what the gentleman's been trying to do is figure out how the language is, but tell the folks what you're after as a general rule, and that'll help us, and then we'll get to that.
Yes, sir. Recently, the Pell Grant has, wow, this is loud. It's not loud. Recently, the Pell Grant has removed recently the Pell Grant has changed where an individual is no longer ineligible for the Pell Grant to receive federal funds if they have a drug infraction. That means if they have been arrested or have a felony or drug charge on their record. Currently in the state of Georgia, we still have that on our books. Last year, the chairman gave me the opportunity to present the bill where last year completely removed the Drug-Free Post-Secondary Education Act of 1990. I heard the concerns of the committee when it referred to fentanyl and other substances that may be of danger to students or to the general public. With that concern, went back to the drawing board, had a few meetings with the chairman. Thank you, Anna, for the work you've done on this bill. But this, as it stands before you today, is not to do away completely with the Secondary Drug Act, but to only restrict, as you can see on line 13, marijuana as a reason an individual will not lose the Hope Scholarship. I hate to say this word because it's used a lot of times. It's a simple bill. I heard the concerns of the committee. I will give way to any questions or concerns that they have now. I believe this bill encompasses what the committee had reservations about last year, where in response to other controlled substances such as fentanyl and dangerous drugs, that we're strictly and specifically only focusing on removing marijuana from the Post-Secondary Drug Act. So individuals, college students can stay in college and get an education and hopefully to work on the development of our state, to employ it, to grow our workforce, and to grow our state's economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bell. And the committee, just let me help the representative here. And so what I think that he's trying to do is to mirror what's happened at the federal level. And what I'm going to suggest, and take questions, and then we'll try to move along quickly here. But what I'm going to suggest in the interim, we have a couple of members of this committee that cross-pollinate, if you will, with judiciary. If we don't have enough of legal mind, I'm going to ask the proper chairman at judiciary to be a consultant with us, and or talk with the Speaker's office about how we can put the gentleman over into maybe a quick hearing in a judiciary subcommittee to make sure when we're over in the criminal, if we're talking about the criminal code on drug offenses, that we don't do something that, with the exception of Whip Park, that may be an attorney, and Representative Kelly that's an attorney, that we might not have the interest on, and get them to kind of give us a check mark on that we're not breaking anything, along the criminal code, and then bring that up, and then we'll take at that time testimony from TCSG or USG and student finance and so forth. But I did want the gentleman to bring that. He's worked real hard at this, so that they're. Maybe a little work we got to do just to make sure we do it. But with that, does anybody have a question about what the gentleman is trying to do? And we'll do that. Representative, I don't remember which one. Number 17 is Whip Park.
Just more of a comment, if I may, real quickly.
Yes,
I just wanted to thank the author of the bill for continuing to work on this and taking into consideration feedback. Looking forward to working with you in what I think is a very common sense issue to continue to try and make some progress on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Whip Park.
Yes, I just had one question. Thank you again for bringing the bill and working on it. Can you give me a particular instance where this bill, specifically this bill had detrimental effect to a student, and then what were the ramifications?
Well, personally, in 2003, or let's say 2004 or 5, my sister was at a party at Savannah State. At that time, marijuana was a drug felony, regardless of the amount that you have. And she being at that party, if knowing the way also the law reads currently in Georgia, if no one cops to the drug or whatever the paraphernalia is, everyone gets charged. So at that time she was charged with a gram of weed, which was a felony then, and she lost her Hope Scholarship at Savannah State and had to, in turn, couldn't continue her education. Since then, after years, she's went back to Georgia State and received a BA in nursing. And additionally, maybe I just know a lot of weed smokers. But I had I graduated off a program, graduated from Ladies Mill. Yeah, hypothetically. Hemp. No,
medical.
Yes,
you mean?
Yes.
That's all right. Carry on.
But while I was a friend of mine in high school, I graduated from Ladies Mill High School out of a program called the Elite Scholars Program. Today, it's, if I'm not mistaken, the #1 public charter school in the state. But one of my friends, he was an elite scholar, had a 3.8 GPA. I think it was prom night, he said, but they were celebrating. It was prom night, and they got caught in the car with weed. While he was able to attend college, he had to pay for every red cent out of that due to that infraction. He graduated and attended Kennesaw State. He works. He's a viable member of society. Both those individuals are a viable member of society till this day. But by the grace of God, they were able to do that. For so many individuals, that Hope Scholarship is life or death situation. Well, not to be dramatic, but it literally is life or death situations.
Educationally, for certain.
Even just for the opportunity to leave their community. Oftentimes, people are drawn back by the malfeasance of their community just from proximity. When you have an individual that's able to achieve or go to college that is not in their community, that gets them away from the ramifications of whether it's streets, drugs, or gang violence, it really changes a person's life. And when they lose their scholarship and have to go back to those surroundings, not only is it detrimental to them, but it's also detrimental to their legacy, which meaning the future that they may lead, whether it's their kids, grandkids, but also when a person loses the opportunity to reach higher ed, they also lose their economic engine just to be that support in their community and therefore their immediate family as well.
Okay, we have two quick questions. Remember, we got Representative Santos we've got to get in here. Representative Jackson.
Thank you so much for this bill, because I've seen so many people, young people, they come in, they want to smoke marijuana, then they don't realize the effect that it has on their financial cost of going to college. I think it's something that is needed here in this community. One of the things, I've seen so many kids that have come through with Hope scholarships. These are some of your top students, and they don't come back when something affects them, or they may go to another institution. Thank you. I like the idea that we're going to be talking about this even more, and hopefully that this body will be able to recommend that it move forward.
Thank you, Representative Jackson.
Vice Chairman Carter.
Representative, thank you for the amendments and changes since last year when we last looked at this. And I know the devil's in the details, and to the chairman's comments about bringing some from judiciary in to help with the legalese. But the spirit of what you're going for is minor crimes related to usage, possession of marijuana.
Yes, sir.
And I notice the language still says manufacture, distribution, sale. Well, that's obviously different than usage. And so I think the spirit of it, though, is if someone's convicted of minor crime, and I know a lot of different areas are sort of reducing penalties and things like that to misdemeanors and $35 fines, and depending on the amount of marijuana, they're called less than an ounce, more than an ounce, et cetera. But the spirit of what you're doing is just for those minor violations for people using marijuana.
Indeed.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the changes. I'm
not trying to let the kingpin or the queenpin get off and have a good time, but just want to make sure that those individuals who are whether they're suffering from addiction or just got a bad break, making sure that that's not the break that ends their life or their propensity to be contributing members of society.
Yeah, I'm going to have you wind up here just because Representative Santos is fixing to come after you. No, she's not. I'm just kidding. But no, I think you've got a good thing. What I'm going to do is I'm actually, it's interesting that Carter Barrett went on this up and down. I'm going to let Carter lead a group to in the offices and to get with our friends down in Judiciary just to make sure that help us find that thing that sort of matches the educational consequences with the criminal consequences, right? And we'll do that. But I thank you very much for bringing it, and I am going to make that the last word if you're all right. I think you got something we can look at going forward, and I'm going to get to Representative Santos, so get her up here. Ready to go, Representative?
Thank you. I yield the will.
You've been yielded. So noted. Okay, Representative, tell us about your proposition. You have a substitute for 610255S, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
Chairman.
tell us about your proposition.
Thank you, committee and chairman, for having me today. This bill essentially is going to, sorry, allow me to get myself together. Okay, I'm just going to wing it. This bill essentially.
You don't have to get to the details. That's fine with the details.
Okay.
But I mean, you're in general, you're looking to help people where the grants are slow in getting to them, right?
Well, sort of, yes, sir. So this bill aims to provide financial assistance to students that qualify for financial aid, but have not quite received it as of the first day of school. One reason that I think that this is extremely important is because currently our dropout rate in Georgia, or I believe this statistics is probably a general statistics, but we do have in the country, we have 39% of first-time, full-time bachelor degree seeking students do not complete their degree within the first 8 years. And as a first-generation student, I know how hard it is to navigate the complexities of starting a university without having that guidance beforehand. And so this bill aims to help those students in rural areas, first-generation students that don't quite have the money in their bank as of the first day of school. I did reach out to a few institutions, one which I will note because I am a Mercer, proud Mercer alum, and they stated that the Atlanta campus has 1,139,000 that has been approved in financial aid but has not been dispersed yet. And that's 89% of the qualifying candidates have had the money dispersed. So that leaves those students that don't have the financial aid as of the first day delayed. They don't have their books. They cannot achieve that first assignment. And I think that this is going to help a lot of students that have a good intent. They go to school, they made it that far, and it sets them up for success, which is going to, in the end, invest into Georgia. Thank you.
Members of the committee have any questions? Again, the representative provided us a sub today with some changes. If I'm looking at it correctly in the definitions, I think this too, as it came in late, probably has some work to do in coordinating the logistics. The things I would say real quick to you, Representative, is it's a grant to fulfill something until federal aid comes through, but I don't see anything in the bill, or I just got your sub this morning, so I haven't read it thoroughly, but in the original bill, there was nothing for the state to reclaim the money when the federal money did come in. So, the logistics of the back and forth, we need to work out that, but we have a couple of questions, and yes, ma'am.
If I may respond to that.
Sure.
So I did speak with a director of an agency that assists the FAFSA in the application process, and he advised that most schools have a cost of attendance plan, and so when a student receives awards, they deduct from that total package. And so in the interest of not overpaying or giving a student more money, this is only going to provide them funds immediately. So it's not going to give them additional funds, because generally
I understand that, but if this is money coming down through the FAFSA plan from the federal government, and it's not there, and you call for us to give them up to $5,000 until it gets there. Okay, let's just say the federal government now is going to give them $5,000 less, but when is the state going to recoup its money from the federal government? There's just logistics. Again, I see where you're headed to, and that's why we have the interim, to do it. You have a couple of questions here, Representative Glaze.
So thank you for seeing a problem and coming up with some answers to resolve it. But help me understand, if there is an awardee and they get there on day one, usually the funding is not there. So they are allowed to matriculate in the university. So what would this money be used for? If the university sees the money there, it's approved, and they're matriculating, then tell me where this money in this bill would be utilized.
Thank you for that question. You're helping my thoughts get organized. So this would help because a student doesn't get the funding until after they've attended. I've confirmed this with FAFSA, and Mercer University advised that they don't even release financial aid until after a student has attended 10 days. That's because there's an add drop period. And so from my experience, I've had assignments as of the first day of school. And so most of these students, they have to come out of pocket until they receive these monies that will help them or reimburse them for what they spent out of pocket. And so from my experience, I was admitted to law school last year. The week before law school began, I didn't have that. I didn't know that that was going to happen. And so I couldn't come up with the $1,000 that was required of me. And that put me and about 10 other students behind because we didn't have that money easily said.
Do you mind if I follow up?
Please.
What was the $1,000 for?
Books.
For books.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
That's what we're trying to get to. What would the money be utilized for?
And
okay. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Representative. So just to make sure I understand the spirit of what you're trying to accomplish, this is not really a grant. It's rather gap funding until those funds are made available, in which case that funds would come back through, and all this would be administered through GSFA.
So the intent is to provide money in that gap period, because a student qualifies, but they haven't yet received it. So I appreciate that question, because that is something that I'm exploring and hopefully can really tighten that a little better so it can make more sense. But I think the goal is just to ensure that a student is set up for success as of the first day, and it doesn't leave them in a place where they're not able to meet the GPA that they need to continue receiving all these other scholarships that they need.
Okay, great. And a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. Have you had a chance yet to meet with GSFA on this, or are you still planning to? And the $5,000, what's that number? What was the thought process in that number?
So the to answer your first question, I did speak with Georgia Student Finance. I didn't speak with this finance authority. I spoke with a commission briefly. So I am in conversations with them. I do think that this is going to need a lot of more conversation, because obviously we want to make sure that it's intended correctly. The $5,000 came from my experience as my first year in law school. It was about $1,000, probably $1,500 per class. I had 3 classes, and that's only from my experience. I can't pretend to know what other students pay, but it's determined based on the instructor materials. So it's not just $5,000. You get to go spend it how you want. The award money is only for essential material, which is the books and any identified items by the instructor, up to $5,000.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, may I add one last thing?
Of course.
This is going to be awarded along the lines of the Pell Grant, which is going to make that window a little smaller, just because FAFSA does award financial aid after a student has started school in general. So this is going to only be available if you qualify for Pell, you qualify for this bill.
I just thank you very much for the bill, and I know the needs of the students when they're in school. How are you building in, and I've not read all of the document, are you going to put into place a time frame? How long can a student attend? How can a student can attend before their information because they could have filed late, or it could have been a breakdown in the process, or something like that? Or is the school obligated to give this money, and then after so many days or weeks, they're told they can no longer attend, but they have already received and it has been put into their account?
So this, going along with the Pell Grants, it would be awarded based on the student going to school, being a part of the actual class. I don't know exactly what the committee thinks would be best. I am seeking to explore ways where we can tighten that up as well. I do think that if a student is going to school and they don't have their books on the first day, they're not going to be successful.
Right.
And this bill aims to provide that money, and it will be later deducted according to the stakeholders that I spoke to, based on that calculator of the entire awards, and then they start adding and deducting to meet that number.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If I may add, this is my first bill, so thanks for your grace.
You're so lucky we're out of time, or we would have many more questions for you. We will surely have to have the representative back. No, on a serious note, thanks for bringing this and talking about us. I for one, and we do have to wrap up and get to the rules meeting, but I for one think we have a great opportunity to attack that Reagan phrase of "we're from the government and we're here to help." That he used to joke about, because it seems a bit ridiculous for me that, I know you were speaking of a private institution and there's different things that go there, but with public institutions, if one has a Pell approval in process and the checks in the mail, it seems a little beyond the pale that we would have to come up with another governmental program to provide a bridge funding so that you couldn't get your books from the government books. I mean, you bring a good thing. I hope we can fix a lot of this with some operational improvements within the current situation or the current systems. But in the event we can't, we'll work with you to try to make it. To try to close the gap without making it more complicated. How about that? That would be my goal. Well, thank you very much. And committee, I thank everyone. It is possible that this will be the last time we gather this year. Perhaps we'll be in, but next Wednesday will be day 39, and we'll probably be very busy unless something comes up we need to meet. I will ask the members and sound this, keep an eye on your email. I do have some information coming that will be important to you, so keep an eye on your email, and if you can, respond to me. Otherwise, without anything further, if there's nothing further for the committee, I thank everyone for coming. We'll stand adjourned without objection. I see no objection, and we are adjourned.